2 decades ago, that little boy made all of America burst into laughter on screen. Now at 34, Lil JJ isn't telling jokes anymore, he's telling the truth. The bomb called Quiet on Set is shaking the world of American children's television. The childhood wonderland known as Nickelodeon has shattered into fragments of dark memories. A name once thought forgotten echoes again: Lil JJ, the former symbol of Nickelodeon. No tears, no accusations, just a cold signal enough to send chills down Hollywood's spine. What have we overlooked for the past? Nick's darkness, Dan Schneider, and the dark side of kids' TV. For more than 2 decades, Nickelodeon was the paradise of American childhood. And at the center of that universe was Dan Schneider, the mastermind behind the series that defined an entire generation. From All That Drake and Josh Zoe 101 to iCarly, every show bore his mark. Children laughed, parents cheered, and America believed it was the purest world on television. But in 2024, that paradise collapsed. Quiet on Set, the blast that shattered millions of childhoods. In March 2024, Investigation Discovery and Max released the 5-part 200-minute documentary Quiet on Set, the dark side of kids' TV, exposing the behind-the-scenes of children's shows from the late 1990s to 2000s. The series was based on a 2022 investigative report about the culture of power and manipulation in youth television production. The moment the trailer dropped, one line made Hollywood hold its breath: "They made us laugh. Now, they'll make us listen." Once celebrated for discovering and nurturing young stars like Miranda Cosgrove, Ariana Grande, and Drake Bell Schneider, now faces multiple accusations of creating a toxic, unsupervised workplace. In Quiet on Set, former actors describe a culture of fear where children had to obey absolutely where the line between work and personal safety disappeared. Drake Bell, Alexa, Nicholas Giovanni Samuels, along with former writers and Nickelodeon staff, spoke out for the first time about what they had been forced to stay silent about for years. Episode 3 was the real explosion. Drake Bell, the star of Drake and Josh, revealed for the first time that he had been subjected to unwanted behavior by dialogue coach Brian Peck. He said, "Brian and I became really close because we had a lot of the same interests, which looking back I think was probably a little calculated. I was a kid. I had no way out." Peck, who had coached many young Nickelodeon actors, was sentenced to 16 months in prison in 2004. Bell admitted he had lived in silence for nearly 2 decades before agreeing to speak for the film "I've Been Quiet for Too Long. Not anymore." That line sounded like a declaration for an entire generation, because once Quiet on Set aired, countless former Nickelodeon stars began to speak up. Jeanette McCurdy, the iCarly star, was among the first, even though she had told her truth long before. In her best-selling memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died, she wrote that while working at Nickelodeon, I was offered $300,000 to stay silent about my experiences. She turned it down. And in an interview with Vanity Fair, Jeanette elaborated, "I remember feeling controlled, being put in uncomfortable situations, but I was too young to understand what was wrong." Alexa Nicholas Zoe 101 spoke out about the culture of fear that dominated the set. She said she could never forget the feeling of being controlled and isolated. In an interview, she stated bluntly, "There was a culture of fear on set, and I don't forgive Dan Schneider." Giovanni Samuels. All that shared briefly but heavily. A lot of things that shouldn't have happened did happen. Meanwhile, Lori Beth Denberg, one of Nickelodeon's early stars, described Schneider as someone who used his power in the wrong way, causing many young actors to lose faith in the environment they once loved. Quiet on Set doesn't just reveal behind-the-scenes stories, it forces viewers to confront what they once believed was harmless. But the documentary also exposes something even more unsettling. In many of Dan Schneider's shows, teen humor was sometimes laced with inappropriate details, moments that crossed the usual boundaries of children's television. A former writer recalled, "Whenever there was a scene involving feet or anything meant to draw attention, the camera would zoom in close, and everyone working there knew that wasn't normal." The filmmakers included numerous clips from the Amanda Show, iCarly, and Victorious, showing how scenes once seen as silly sketches now reveal strange undertones, double meanings, and questionable framing. For those who grew up with Nickelodeon, it was a genuine shock. Moments that once made audiences laugh now feel uncomfortable and suspicious. Were those jokes really innocent, or were they adult jokes disguised as children's humor? Across social media, thousands of comments flooded Reddit and X Twitter. Our childhood was written by adults, and now we see maybe they were laughing for different reasons. One user wrote, "It wasn't just comedy, it was control disguised as laughter. A system of silence." Quiet on Set shows that the problem wasn't just one person, but an entire system of silence where young performers were caught inside a production machine with no real protection. When the documentary aired, the backlash spread worldwide. The hashtag number Quiet on Set flooded social media. Viewers felt betrayed, realizing that the laughter of their childhood now echoed through a lens of fear and... Dan Schneider's response, "I'm ashamed but not guilty." Less than 48 hours after Quiet on Set aired, Dan Schneider, once dubbed the King of Nickelodeon, uploaded a nearly 20-minute video to YouTube. The conversation was hosted by Boogie E, his former iCarly castmate, who returned as a kind of conversation moderator. Schneider began with a low, halting voice. "I did ask employees to massage me. That was wrong. I'm ashamed and I regret it." He added that if he could go back, he would have run his sets differently. "If I had the chance to do it again, I'd have a certified therapist on set. I never intended to harm anyone." However, Schneider insisted he committed no crime. He claimed Quiet on Set was intentionally edited to portray him as a villain, describing the experience of watching it as painful and unfair. By September 2024, Schneider officially filed a defamation lawsuit against the producers of Quiet on Set, seeking damages and demanding that the film's original trailer be removed from all online platforms. The production team declined to comment on the lawsuit, stating only that every testimony in the series had been legally verified before broadcast. Nickelodeon later released an official statement. "We take all allegations seriously. Every show is supervised by parents, child safety experts, and independent producers. Nickelodeon does not tolerate any form of misconduct." When asked directly about the specific details shown in Quiet on Set, Nickelodeon representatives declined further comment, saying only that child safety protocols today are far more rigorous and transparent than ever before. It wasn't one monster. It was a system. The final line of Quiet on Set echoed like an indictment that needed no lawyer. But that system, Nickelodeon in the 2000s, wasn't just iCarly, Zoe 101, or Drake and Josh. Behind the neon lights was another world, one where the children who once made America laugh disappeared into silence. Lil JJ, the child erased from Nickelodeon's golden age. Before Nickelodeon became the empire of Drake and Josh and iCarly, there was a black boy who could make all of America laugh with just a few jokes. James was born on October 31st, 1990 in Little Rock, Arkansas, the eldest of 4 siblings. He loved telling jokes from an early age. Instead of being punished for talking too much in class, JJ was discovered by a teacher named Ken Bright, who quit his teaching job to become JJ's personal manager. He took JJ to perform at clubs, church events, and community gatherings all over Arkansas. In a southern state where black children's laughter was rarely heard on television, JJ became living proof that talent has no color. In 2003, at just 13, JJ auditioned for BET's Coming to the Stage, a national search for young comedians. His competitors were all seasoned comics, but the small kid in the oversized suit stunned the audience within seconds. Not because he was cute, but because he was genuinely funny. JJ won the competition and became a national phenomenon. He soon appeared on BET's Comic View, The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, and in music videos with Chris Brown, Sean Kingston, and Nelly. The little boy from Arkansas was now standing alongside some of the biggest names in show business. The new golden boy of kids' TV, JJ's success on BET caught the attention of Nickelodeon. In 2005, he joined the comedy show All That Season 10, the same show that had launched Kanan and Kel Amanda Bynes and a wave of Nickelodeon's biggest child stars. JJ was given the Vital Information segment, the hardest role on the show, demanding perfect timing, rhythm, and stage instinct like clockwork. He nailed it so effortlessly that producers started to take notice. They realized they had a real diamond in the rough. A year later, JJ appeared in the sitcom Romeo alongside Romeo Miller, the son of rapper Master P. He became Nickelodeon's next black ace, the fresh young face who could bring youthful energy, cultural representation, and a connection to the black audience the network had long overlooked. But the true peak of Lil JJ's career came with Just Jordan, the show that transformed him from a child comedian into a full-fledged Nickelodeon star. At the time, JJ was only 16. In an industry where most teen leads were played by adults pretending to be kids, it was rare for a real teenager to carry an entire sitcom bearing his own name. On January 7, 2007, Just Jordan officially premiered. The story followed a boy from Arkansas who moves to Los Angeles to live with his grandfather and work at the family diner, a near reflection of JJ's real life. Behind the show was Ralph Farquhar, the legendary black producer behind The Proud Family and Moshe. He brought something Nickelodeon had rarely seen at the time: authenticity, identity, and community. For the first time, a Nickelodeon teen sitcom spoke the language of real life, unpolished, unfiltered, and unapologetically human. On screen, Jordan Lewis was just a character. But for a generation of young black viewers, it was the first time they saw themselves smart, strong, and real on national television. After the first season's success, Nickelodeon upgraded the entire production system for Just Jordan Season 2. Ratings climbed steadily through early 2008, averaging over 2.4 million viewers per episode, pushing the show into Nickelodeon's top Sunday lineup, competing directly with Zoey 101 and Drake and Josh. But just as Lil JJ reached his peak, he suddenly fell in a way no one saw. The unexpected blow. When Hollywood went dark, by late 2007, Just Jordan was at its brightest. Season 2 was midway through filming, the cast had become a family, and Nickelodeon was preparing to greenlight Season 3. But on November 5, 2007, Hollywood stopped breathing. The Writers Guild of America, WGA, the largest screenwriters union in the country, declared a nationwide strike. The reason: a long simmering battle over digital royalties. Writers wanted their share of profits from DVDs and internet streaming, something studios at the time dismissed as insignificant. But everyone knew this wasn't just about money. It was a rebellion by the people who create the stories. And Hollywood paid the price immediately. Writers put down their pens. Cameras stopped rolling. Over 60 television shows, from The Office and Desperate Housewives to Grey's Anatomy, went dark. Across Los Angeles, crowds filled the streets holding signs that read, "Without writers, there's no story." In that chaos, Just Jordan, a young black teen sitcom still finding its place, became a silent casualty. By the 90th day of the strike, Nickelodeon had already reshuffled its entire programming lineup. No one was thinking about Just Jordan. No one prioritized it. Bigger titles like iCarly, Drake and Josh, and Zoey 101 were brought back to the spotlight first. The strike lasted 100 days, from November 5, 2007 to February 12, 2008. When Hollywood restarted, Nickelodeon had a new schedule, new time slots, new projects. Just Jordan wasn't one of them. In the spring of 2008, Nickelodeon quietly began airing leftover episodes to fill the schedule. No trailer, no promo, no hashtags. Just reruns in early morning weekend slots, the kind of hours when Just Jordan's core audience was still asleep. Then, on August 23, 2008, an episode titled Picture Perfect aired. No one said it was the finale. No farewell message. Within weeks, its time slot was replaced by the Naked Brothers Band. Just Jordan was gone. On paper, Nickelodeon announced that the show had been impacted by the WGA strike, but inside the network, questions began to rise. Ratings were steady at over 2 million viewers per episode. Parents' feedback was positive. Season 3 had already been discussed in early planning stages. Some crew members later recalled that JJ had a strong personality. He often suggested rewriting lines, adding his own punchlines, even tweaking staging directions. That, they said, made a few producers uncomfortable. In a system that demanded child actors to be obedient, flexible, and just bright enough, a kid who dared to say, "I think we should do it differently," rarely lasted long. He stayed in Los Angeles for a few more months, waiting for the phone to ring. It never did. After the spotlight, a decade of silence. 2008-2018. When Just Jordan ended the audition, emails stopped coming. The people who once patted Lil JJ on the shoulder in the makeup room were now busy with iCarly or Victorious. Nickelodeon never called again. In 2008, JJ tried his hand at a few small projects, almost grown a short sitcom based on his own idea. Brief guest roles on The Secret Life of the American Teenager and Men of a Certain Age. But those roles were just shadows of a former star, a few minutes on screen, a few lines of dialogue, then his name fading into the end credits. At 18, the teenager who once made America laugh fell into a strange void. Too old to play a kid, too young to be seen as an adult. Hollywood calls it the in-between years, that limbo, where without a strong agent or major fame, a career often goes clinically dead. JJ had neither. He later recalled, "They'd look at me and say, 'You're funny, but we're looking for someone 15. Then when I was 21, they'd say, 'You still look 17. I was stuck between two numbers. Frustrated and out of options in 2010, Lil JJ decided to leave Los Angeles and return to his hometown in Arkansas. He enrolled at Arkansas Baptist College, majoring in communications, and joined the Omega Psi Phi fraternity, an organization long known for helping young black men rebuild confidence and community. By day, he studied. By night, he performed stand-up in small clubs, writing, promoting, and holding the mic all by himself. More than 10 years passed since Just Jordan was pulled off the air. Lil JJ never completely disappeared. He still performed, still made music, still smiled, but no one asked, whatever happened to that Nickelodeon kid, until March 2024. 10 years of silence, and 4 words that made Hollywood shiver. 2024. As quiet on set, the dark side of kids' TV tore open the hidden world behind Nickelodeon's empire. A new wave of questions flooded the internet. If that's true, what about the other kids? What about Lil JJ? He was there too. People began tracing back the lost generation of Nickelodeon stars, the faces that vanished after fame. And then one old name resurfaced, Lil JJ. On March 20th, 2024, after 16 years of silence, Lil JJ suddenly posted a single status on Facebook. No photo, no hashtag, just one cold sentence: Just Jordan got canceled. I ain't giving up, no way. A joke or a veiled confession? No one could tell, but everyone felt something wasn't right. The eerie coincidence was that his post appeared right as quiet on set was exploding online, leading many to believe it wasn't random at all, but a deliberate signal. Within an hour, the post spread across Twitter and Reddit. Comments flooded in. What's he saying? Was Just Jordan canceled for moral reasons, not because of the strike? Read it again. That's not a joke. Within 24 hours, Lil JJ climbed into Google's top searches in the US. Black media outlets like The Shade Room and Atlanta Black Star weighed in. That post wasn't just a joke, it sounded like a reaction from someone who's seen things he shouldn't have. Those 4 words tore open more than a decade of silence. One side saw it as a moral stand that JJ had once been pressured to compromise behind the scenes and chose to walk away instead. The other side said he was simply joking at the wrong time, riding the quiet on set wave for attention. And Lil JJ. He stayed silent. When a reporter later asked if he wanted to clarify, he gave the only answer he ever would: no more to say. You read it how I meant it. After those cold 4 words, people began to realize this wasn't just about a canceled TV show. Behind it was a silent system, the unspoken rules black actors in Hollywood have faced for decades. Tests of obedience no one ever names, but everyone in the business understands. The black voice in Hollywood. I wasn't with it. One of the few people who ever dared to say it out loud was Omar Gooding, the younger brother of Cuba Gooding Jr. In a 2022 interview, Omar shared, I was offered roles that stripped me of my dignity, wearing dresses, acting feminine, just to stay relevant. I refused. And they made me disappear. He described Hollywood as a ritualistic industry, a place where black actors are expected to prove their obedience by bowing to the system. They must accept roles as comic relief, or reshape their image to fit white audiences' taste. When placed next to Lil JJ's words, the echo is unmistakable. I wasn't with the she, and I never be. What sounded like a joke became a declaration, a refusal to play the game, a refusal to trade himself just to belong. On Wild 'N Out, the fast-paced improv comedy show, JJ once hinted at this himself. I don't trade my values for the spotlight. The crowd laughed, but to him it wasn't a punchline, it was a principle. Because in Hollywood, especially for black performers, silence is often the price of survival. History is filled with examples. Actors who challenged racial stereotypes or refused to be typecast were quietly pushed aside. Lil JJ was no exception. He wasn't fired, he wasn't scandalized, he wasn't guilty of anything, he was simply erased cleanly and quietly. Cultural analysts call it erasure, by obedience, the act of making someone disappear, by demanding their compliance. JJ, like Omar Gooding, chose the opposite path. He kept his boundaries, kept his self-respect, and paid for it with his career. "That's why I wasn't with it" isn't a defense. It's a declaration, the voice of those who were once forced into silence. A soft phrase carrying the weight of decades of struggle in the dark. For the generation that grew up with just Jordan, it isn't just an answer from a forgotten star. It's the voice of a black man who once stood in the spotlight and walked away simply to remain him. The man at 34. I'm living real, 34 years old. No more roaring laughter from Nickelodeon audiences, no more rushing backstage in an oversized hoodie. James Charles Lewis III. The name America once knew as Lil JJ is now simply J. Lewis, a man learning how to live truthfully. From Lil to big on paper, he is still Lil JJ, actor, comedian, rapper. But to friends, colleagues, and the loyal fans of Wild 'N Out, he has become Big JJ. Not because he is bigger, but because he has grown. Between 2012 and 2014, JJ worked a 9-to-5 job at a marketing office while writing music under the name Big JJ and releasing independent tracks on YouTube. He never stopped doing comedy, just on smaller stages and to smaller crowds. In 2015, Nick Cannon, host of Wild 'N Out, came across one of JJ's old stand-up clips. Cannon reached out and invited him to join Season 8 of the show. For the first time in nearly 7 years, Lil JJ was back on national television, but this time not as Nickelodeon's golden boy. He was a grown comedian, confident and unscripted. The return was not loud, but it mattered. Old fans recognized him, calling it the comeback we didn't know we needed. JJ simply said, "It's not a comeback. I never left. I was just quiet." From 2016 to 2018, he toured across the South performing stand-up in cities like Atlanta and Houston. No fancy stage, no team, just a microphone, a warm light, and real laughter. One morning in early 2018, he posted a photo on Instagram sitting at an office desk wearing a dress shirt holding a cup of coffee. The caption read, "Slow money, better than no money." The post spread quickly. Not because it was funny, but because it was real. The boy who once symbolized childhood stardom was now talking about real work, slow life, and peace without the spotlight. Entertainment blogs called it the Peace Post, a moment marking his quiet step out of fame's illusion into genuine adulthood. Soon after, director Tyler Perry noticed him and invited him to audition for a new sitcom. Perry later said JJ has that energy Hollywood forgot, joy that doesn't compromise dignity. From 2008 to 2018, it was a decade without lights but full of awakening. JJ did not return as a fallen star. He came back as a man who understood the worth of a real smile. Someone who once knew him said, "Back at Nickelodeon, JJ smiled so the audience could be happy. Now he smiles because he still is." Every time he steps on stage, the crowd cheers Big JJ's in the house, as if to affirm that the boy Hollywood forgot has finally found his voice again. "I don't want to be defined by Lil forever," in a 2024 talk show in Atlanta, when asked if he ever regretted that his career did not explode as expected. JJ smiled and said, "There's nothing worse than being defined forever by the word Lil. I'm not that kid from the sitcom anymore. I'm a man living real, not playing a role." It was more than an answer, it was a declaration. Not just for him, but for an entire generation of child stars who grew up under Nickelodeon's bright lights. For JJ, leaving the word Lil behind was not just changing a name. It was freedom, breaking out of the golden cage of childhood fame. A slower life, but a real one. Far from Hollywood's glitter, JJ returned home to Arkansas, where it all began. He continues to perform stand-up in Los Angeles, Atlanta, and Little Rock cities tied to his roots, his family, and the audiences who never stopped believing in him. In an age of short clips and easy laughs, JJ chose the slower path. Small shows, quiet live streams, and heart-to-heart talks with old Nickelodeon fans. He speaks about healing the pressure of fame and how to learn to be normal again after being famous. On Instagram, his account, EMJ Lewis, stays active with photos from gigs and simple captions like "Grateful" or "Peace is the real flex." He does not show off houses, cars, or contracts. Just a man doing his craft, earning a living through laughter and music he truly loves. An artist for the community. Today, JJ is not only performing for audiences, he is teaching the next generation how to tell their own stories. He runs a small class in Little Rock where he teaches kids performance acting and how to face a crowd. For many black children, it is the first time they see someone who looks like them standing on stage and saying, "You don't have to perform to please anyone. You just have to be real." He also takes part in educational events, sharing his journey with high school students, not to talk about fame, but about how to survive after the lights go out. I used to think success was when people recognized me. Now I know success is when I recognize myself. Wealth is not much, but the value is real. Lil JJ has never lived lavishly. Entertainment outlets estimate his net worth around $500,000, mostly from comedy shows, television roles, and Wild 'N Out. But what he has gained is worth more than any number piece. He does not hide the fact that he once worked office jobs to make a living, that he was once unemployed, that he once felt lost. Slow money is better than no money. That line spread widely, not because it was funny, but because it was honest. The same Lil JJ who once stood under Hollywood's bright lights now embraces a simple life with nothing left to prove. The silence that once filled those sound stages has finally broken. Not through scandal, but through a short, honest sentence. Hollywood once taught kids like Lil JJ how to smile for the camera and how to say their lines on cue. But when the lights went out, he became the one teaching the next generation how to live truthfully. Maybe Just Jordan was not canceled because of ratings. Maybe it was because of conscience, because a boy dared to say no when everyone else stayed silent.
All data, analysis, and commentary in this video are presented based on information available at the time of production. The content is subject to change over time and should not be considered a definitive forecast. There is still so much more to explore: stories of resilience, legacy, and truth. Feel free to dive into some of our top recommended videos now appearing on the screen.